putting some thought into these different observations that go on in consciousness. So we have unresolved psychology, where we see through, these filters, trauma filters, I guess you could call them, which are very reactive. There's the goal of moving onwards on the path of the upwards path is to dissolve all of these and see through the illusions of these unresolved selves, you could call them, unresolved aspects of psychology, of consciousness, and to let them go. Like a simple example is victim consciousness, and there's loads. But the focus of this talk is not about that. What I'm contemplating is what are the observations that I've made that have been from this neutral place of awareness, from just from this pure place of consciousness, which is based on what life is like on earth, what generally other aspects of human consciousness, like what have I observed, what are these neutral sort of conclusions that I've come to draw about being here. And so one, which I think contains a fair bit, it can relate back to when I recently experienced a massive trauma experience, when a tree fell on my bus. I was inside of it, and it was a very shocking experience. Okay, so this sort of thing, it's not something that happened to just me. Like, human beings across the planet experience things like this, when some massive event happens, like it might be losing a beloved, the death of someone you love, something, it could be like, some severe experience of a bomb, dropping on your house, or a natural disaster experience. Like, there's many such experiences. So this is not really about me. This is just, it's about the general observations that come from that. And so, when I look at it all quite neutrally, it's just like, well, one thing which, I'm very aware that's in my consciousness is that anything could happen here on earth. There's no such thing as real absolute security. Like everything that you perceive as being secure, like shelter, money, your finances, your family, like all of these things, they can go just like that. It can all be taken away in the flash, in the blink of an eye. And another observation is that sometimes it has nothing to do with you. It's just the way it happened, It's just the way an experience happened. Like it. I'm not saying that necessarily in my case or anything, but I know my experience happened to help me awaken to a lot of things. Like, I see sort of a deeper meaning for mine, and everyone, I guess, when something major happens like this, is given an opportunity to grow. It's when we go into the pain, that's where we sort of begin to discover more about ourselves as we heal that, and we discover our light. There's like this choice, you either stay in it and don't resolve it and stay in that pain and outplay that pain in whatever way you may outplay it, or you can work through it, And so another observation is that when a shocking event happens, that there is like this period. There's this period where I wouldn't call it unresolved psychology. There's a period where there's a whole bunch of healing that has to be done with the mind. The physical body, of course, it's got to go through its healing, but the mind has to be healed. Like, there's absolutely no doubt about me, and it takes time. So when someone is going through, if you experience a shock event, it has this impact upon all of the bodies. Okay, so obviously we know about the physical body, but there's like this fracture that happens in the emotional body and in the mental body and in the identity body, our sense of who we are. It all gets obliterated. So, I probably, when somebody dies, someone you love dies, like, this is probably the easiest experience for people to relate to, because most people who'd be watching this might have experienced it. If not, you will one day. So, or a pet, when a pet dies, there is this period where grief has to play out, where the trauma of that sense of loss, where it has to play out, and it just takes some time to sort of heal up all of the energy bodies, and even if your physical body wasn't directly harmed, it still comes through the physical body. It could come through in anxiety, in panic attacks, like you physically become unwell, with like allergic reactions or whatever it might be. Our bodies tell us, that when there's something that is unresolved. So, and that's one of the major learnings that I took from this experience, is just to come to this place of acceptance that, this is what it is to be a human. It doesn't mean that, I'm not a spiritual being or anything if I experience a shock, like, it's going to happen to you too, where one day you experience some kind of major shock that just rocks you out of your comfort zone completely. It happens to everyone on planet Earth. Like, it cannot be avoided, really. It's not possible to build, like, this marshmallow castle and, put yourself inside of it and hope that the ants won't eat all the marshmallows and get to you. It's going to happen to you sooner or later. It happens to every single one of us. So if we can find and accept that, there is a process that goes with it, but also with that shock, with healing ourselves, through this period of, intense healing that happens, we can actually we can heal the whole lot too. That's the thing. We don't have to stay with this sustained trauma. And so that's another observation about life on Earth, is that most of us get patterned into hanging on to our trauma kind of permanently, and it stays there long term, so it becomes like PTSD. And even though they say PTSD is something that's just specifically for people like who've been in war and things like that, it's like the disease across the planet, without a doubt. It affects, like, everybody. Everybody is running on PTSD. Like, a particular situation triggers something in their consciousness, and it may not even have been something that's from this lifetime, and they will react in the same way that they originally reacted to whatever it is that is being triggered in the memory. It's psychology already knows this, science already knows this, like, they know how the brain functions, what the amygdala is doing and the hippocampus, and how the prefrontal cortex shuts down and everything. That's very normal. It's very, very normal. But we can heal it. So I guess, that's another observation, that, we can heal a trauma that happens, in the now. We can heal it by just being present with the process, moving forward with it. We can also delve into past traumas, and we can heal them too, just as quickly. Maybe Sometimes it takes a little bit longer because, the psychology that goes with them gets patterned in so heavily. But it is possible, with an intention that I want to heal this, then you can. It is possible to do that. So these are some of sort of, my neutral observations about, where there's no reaction in me regarding, how I see Earth and how I see people. Like I just see all of these patterns being played out. The sun's coming up. Look, I've got a hole in my head. Whoa. This is just a few of the thoughts I have. And just wanted to talk about those for now. And I'm sure there's more. So, and anyone who studies Ascended Master teachings, well, it's this, I was sort of prompted to consider this, like after I was contemplating a teaching from Mother Mary, which I'm about to go back to, which is saying that, our conscious you, which is consciousness, I'm just using different words here, our conscious you, how's that? It has these neutral observations of the Earth, which are not based on reactions, which are not based on separate selves. So that's just translation into another language, same story. Okay, I'm done. Bye-bye.